Right, bought something that was designed about 100 years ago. Got some paper in here, drawings, lists of parts, all kinds of things. Next job is go through this, have a look at dimensions, see what I need to convert, and make up a list of what things to make in what order, because it won't be any good just going straight at it, not really understanding how it's going to go together and what needs to fit onto what. So take it upstairs, make a list. So I've looked at these drawings. What I'm going to make first is going to be the vise. That's because it's a standalone assembly. It really doesn't interact with anything else as far as movement or fit goes, and it'll fit down on the base plate just to suit in the best position possible. So it's going to be a bolster casting there, a couple of jaws, various bits of bar for the work stop, which is that, piece of 13/16 hex, won't be using that, little bit of Tommy bar, and they've sent me 2 identical castings for the nuts. There should be different castings here, that shouldn't be the same. There's one nut there, looks like that, and one nut there, looks like that. I might be able to squeeze one of them out of this. It's not going to be right, but I'm going to get in touch with them, ask them to send me the proper one, see what happens with that. So the first thing is going to be to get this bolster flattened off, milled out on the slot, drilled for the holes back and front, faced off at the top. It will call for holes to be drilled all the way through, but I don't think I'll be doing that. I'm going to drill a hole in each corner, blind hole, thread it for M6, so that when it mounts onto the base plate, it'll just need some bolts to come up from underneath. There'll be no holes on the top here, which is how it is in the drawing. That's not too bad, doesn't rock. Reasonably solid. I've made various surfaces on this kind of flat just to get a start on it. The setup here is a couple of parallels jammed up against the piece. That gets it straight with the table, as straight as it's going to be in the condition it's in right now. So I'll be taking a cut just off of this surface here and move on to drilling the holes. Okay, so that's got something as flat as it needs to be for now. I might fly cut this later on, but it doesn't make any difference really. It's going to be where nobody sees it. Now that the holes are drilled, that 1, 2, 3 block is lined up and dialed into the table, which means it's dialed into the approximate axis of the bolster. And then by taking that off of the table, I'll turn it over, lay it on the table, tighten down this one, which isn't set at the moment. And then these 2 blocks are going to be the clamping pieces for a good deal of the rest of the work. Let's see how that goes. That's it, it's mounted on blocks and blocks are dialed in even. Should be straight from one end to the other. Okay, got the slot out to 25mm, 2 mistakes, overwound on the handle there, dug into it 2mm more than I should have done, and the whole slot is 6mm longer than it should have been. I didn't subtract the width of the cutter in the travel calculations. 6mm cutter, it's ended up 6mm too long. But not to worry, I'll just fill that in with some stuff at a later date, kind of paint over it. This one will be fine. I'm just going to face this off to get this flat. I've worked out a dimension height that this needs to be. I didn't think it had a dimension for a height, but it does. So I'm just going to flatten this off, turn it over and machine the underside of the guide plattens here. And then I'll take it down to total height at the end. But this is always fun. Now if I didn't have to take any more of that, that's a clean enough upper surface. few cavities where the casting is on the corners, but overall it's not too bad. Now I'll probably need to take a bit more off of this. I'll go down and machine the underneath of these ledges, but I'll leave them oversize and then come back, take that down to get these ledges the size they need to be. But now with that reference surface and these reference surfaces on the inside, I can do away with these blocks, clamp anything, clamp it any way that I want it to. So I've got these grooves down to 6.5mm, so they are those runners, if you like. They're 6.5mm too thick. That'll give me 0.5mm to take off the edge when I turn this over. So now I just got to take this height down. I'm going to take about 3mm off of this to get the whole thing to its right height, given the 0.5mm I've got to take off. So got a fly cut about, quite a bit off of this, 3mm. Good if I oiled it before I started in that. Let's see how we go. Six dead. .98. .7. That'll do. By lucky chance I had decided to machine that slot 25mm. Now that means that this being a metric 1, 2, 3 block, it's a very snug fit in that slot. This has been set up and dialed in on an angle plate to make it square and flat. That's a 30mm slip gauge, so that I can repeatably mount this piece on this block at a set distance. I need to drill a hole on this side and then spot face it, and then turn it over and drill a hole on that side and spot face it, and I want them to be in the same place, but I've got plenty of reference surfaces to do that. This end here also calls for a spot face, but there's enough material to just face that off completely. I'm not going to mess around drilling a hole and making a circular spot face there. It's too much faff when I can just face it off anyway. This is the back end of the vise, and that cast feature there is nowhere near in the centre of the casting. So where I've drilled the hole in the centre, everything just looks misaligned. Now, drawing does call for a spot face on that feature as well, but it's so ugly I've decided to use a face cutter to take the whole thing off and make it just all flat. Yeah, it looks awful. It's about 2mm off centre. Yeah, it's cleaned up as nicely as I might have expected. This is the work stop going on the vise. I'll clean up this side and then clean up this side. That will give me a couple of faces to hold it on. The bottom edge is just sanded down on a plate. And start cleaning off the top, drilling the holes, putting the slot in and the pinch bolt, all those kinds of things. Let's clean that up pretty much with exactly the same let off of the marks on the other side as well, so at least it will look centered. Now I'm boring this hole because the bar stock that you get to put through that work stop is 1/2 inch imperial, and I don't have any imperial tooling, so I'm going to be boring quite a few of these holes where I don't have control over the stock that's going to go through it. This is the bolster and work stop pretty much done. So many swappings of setup and everything else to do different features. That's just me and my lack of forethought. 3 mistakes in this. There's that big gouge there. That's from overwinding the handle by 1 rotation. That gouge there from moving the quill handles out of the way to take a measurement and not putting it back again, and then put a big gouge in this work stop here when rounding off the end. I let go of it, shouldn't have let go of it when I did, and it caught itself and gouged into the mill. Cunningly disguised this as a deliberate aesthetic feature. No one will see this. This will be on the bottom of the vise, and I'm going to fill that back up with a bit of a JB Weld later on, but I don't mix my JB Weld up lightly because it's expensive, and I dare say I'll have more things to fill in the very near future. But that's the bolster and the work stop done. I'm going to move on to the jaws next, something a bit more solid.